Thank you very much, Stefan. So, Alexander, I think we can go in the last round of questions. And we have, 10 minutes to the original timeline, but maybe we can stay 5 minutes more if necessary. Okay, thank you very much. So, first question, what is the best source for best practice HVAC commissioning guidelines and checklists? So who should start?
I could say something there, because there's a public domain document with commissioning best practice on the BCA website, bcxa.org. You could go in and have both best practices for commissioning and best practices for commissioning, retro commissioning of existing buildings. So bcxa.org, try that one.
Anybody else would like to add? Then we can go to the second question. Quantum seems to view commissioning more narrowly than several other views of the process. Is this likely to change, Stefan?
Well, we are not trying to narrow down commissioning or the process of commissioning, but the objective of Quantum is not to, comprehensively define tools for everything in commissioning. We have 3 tools in our proposal, and the project is focusing on creating those 3 tools and bringing them to the market. We're not creating everything that we want to have for commissioning, but those 3 tools. And when you look at it from a tool point of view, it's important that the tool works for the objective that you're looking at, and therefore it's very important that you keep in mind that all this has to be economically viable. So the tools have to provide a strong added value. Software is quite expensive, therefore it's very important that we narrow the focus of the project to the scope of the tools. But this does not mean that there is not a lot more to commissioning.
Thank you. Then the next questions to Dan, I believe. Are the standards mentioned for BIM data structures universally usable, or are there different approaches by different software providers?
Hi, each software provider has their own proprietary way of defining their data structures, which makes it then very difficult to try and meld or federate this information together. That's why, as part of my presentation, I was pointing towards IFC, the Industry Foundation class, because this data structure is not based on a particular vendor. It's like an open source data structure based approach, and then each of the softwares are actually committed to it and are trying their best to create export features so that you can go out into this more neutral, unified data structure.
Thank you. And the next is also to you, I think. What makes the different parties involved in the BIM process provide accurate information?
Well, the way it's been dealt with within the UK is that there are a number of different features that do that. The first is that we have a document called the Bim Protocol, which is a priority of contract document that the employer uses on a BIM project. So on top of your normal construction contract, you have this document that defines that you shall follow the BIM execution plan. And then inside the BIM execution plan, it then defines what data structures and information levels that you need to provide. So through that mechanism, there is a contractual clause that says you must follow this document and a method within that document on how to do it. So that if the employer looks at that information and finds it's not accurate, they then have a method of challenging from a legal and contractual nature then to ensure that it is right, which means then they can actually have the fear of contract put in them to ensure that it's done correctly.
Mm-hmm. Do the ICT tools mentioned require full data collection, or can they make use of whatever data is available using default estimated values for what is not?
Well, I could answer on that.
Yep.
Actually, the tools from Italy, NG9 and the Comfort Meter are actually basically providing their own data. So Comfort Meter is defining a questionnaire. The users answer to those questionnaires, and then you get a statistical analysis of this data. And NG9 is actually measuring itself with its own devices and collecting and providing this data. With the Synavision tool, it's different here. We try to turn around sort of the metering process. Here we are not saying or not starting with the data collection, but we are actually starting with the specification. We are saying it's like was mentioned in the BIM process. I have to define what I want to get, and this is what we do for building functionalities. Also, it's not only for the hardware; it's also for the software of the functions of the system. And this is what we do. And then we ask the contractor who owes this function to prove that he actually has provided this function. And for that, he has to provide certain data. And this is what we're asking for. Usually this is the building management system, but of course you can use other systems here. You can have individual metering systems, whatever. And looking at the specification data, because you mentioned estimated values, quite often in the beginning, and I think Ola mentioned this with the OPR, in the beginning you don't know exactly what you want to have, or maybe you have a starting point, and later on when you know more details, you actually go back to the specifications and adjust them, because for some reason it seems to be more appropriate to go with other values. So this is very well possible to estimate values in the beginning. What is important is later on, this is the value that is owed by the contractor, and this is what you measure against.
Thank you. Next one. Is the Quantum project particularly focused on new build projects, or is it also addressing retrofit projects?
It is both. Actually, the pilot buildings that we have 15 pilot buildings in the Quantum project, and they are all already built. They are all there simply because we wanted to make sure that they are there so that we can use them in the project. But the process can be applied on new buildings as well as on retrofits. It is not perfectly suited for this recommissioning process since you usually lack a specification, but we have done it quite often already. And the advantage of it there is that you create a specification, which is quite useful for the operation and maintenance staff, actually.
Next one to you, Stefan. The Synavision.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just.
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Good that it looks interesting. That's important. It is released already. So if you go on the Synavision website, synavision.de, it's available already. I think the website is in German language so far, but there will be an English version quite soon.
Okay, and the question for Dan then, could you provide concrete example of employers' decision points and suppliers' info exchanges?
To provide actual concrete examples will be difficult because BRE act independently of construction projects. But what I've done is in the chat section, so I think if you click on your chat button in the top right, I put a link to a website which is from the UK, from the MBS, and what is a series of what they call plain language questions. And these are the criteria from an employer or owner to be answered at the end of particular stages. And it's an example provided by our Ministry of Justice, which means that, for example, at stage 5, you can see that there are 6 questions that need to be answered, and they effectively form that employer's decision point. So by having the supply chain answer these questions with whatever they choose to provide, that then forms the information exchange. So for example, on here, how accurate will the information be? And then it depends on how they want to answer that. That could be through some form of method statement, confirmation of clauses within the BIM execution plan. In the same way with, will the construction site be managed safely? Then again, there can be a number of site drawings to show how site traffic movement will move, method statements, different tools and processes being put in place. And in reality, it's to do with a conversation between the owners and the suppliers to ensure that they're happy that that's answered. Once all 6 are answered, you could then consider that decision point cleared and then move on to the next project stage.
All right, thank you. So I hope that everybody can see in the chat field the link from Dan. And then a question, I think, to Ole. So can you also, Ole, write in the chat field the name of the website with that you mentioned with the guidelines for commissioning? Or maybe spell it. Okay, so you can see it there, and I think Alexander will probably copy it quite quickly if he manages, but it's bcxa.org. Ah, yeah, it's there.
Oh, I think that's the wrong address. I'm sorry.
And what do you think is the correct one?
It's BCXA. I'm sorry, there's an X missing. BCXA. BCXA. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah. Ah, yeah, okay. He corrected it, yeah. So, yeah, that's the website with commissioning guidelines. And as I see, we reached the end of our questions, and we are excellent within the time schedule, actually. Is it correct, Alexander?
Indeed. No more questions as far as I can see.
So then thank you very much. I would like to thank the speakers and also the participants for the very good questions. The presentations will be available on the Build Up website, and Alexander can maybe give some more practical information. So thank you very much again from the speaker side.
Okay, thank you also on the part of Build Up. As always, as I said also in the start, the webinar is being recorded. It will be made available in a couple of weeks, so by the end of the week of 8th May. And I would like to extend once again an invitation to other European projects, EC-funded projects that are working on energy performance of buildings that would like to present their findings in the context of Build Up. This is a free service to EC-funded projects that are working on this subject. So please do contact us through the Build Up communication forms, and we'll be very happy to accommodate such requests within the context of Build Up. And there are many other ways in which you can present your work through Build Up. We are always looking forward to opportunities for collaboration. So thank you from my part as well. Thank you, Anita, and all the speakers, and we will be, of course, in touch. Thank you.